So over the last week or so, I've been playing the PlayStation 4 beta of the upcoming open world action RPG Genshin Impact. And I gotta say, I've been having an absolute blast with it. So in today's video, I'm gonna share with you my first impressions of about 20 or so hours that I've played of the game. And if I'm not answering your questions, I'm planning on doing a separate Q&A video. So if I don't answer any questions you might have, definitely leave a comment below and I'll make sure to answer it in that separate Q&A video. For now, let's get started. What's going on? My name is Taylor and welcome to the Gaming Shelf. If you enjoy JRPGs and want to stay up to date with the latest news, reviews, and other fun videos, then make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. So your first question might be, what exactly is Genshin Impact? I've talked about it on Twitter a little bit and a lot of people have never even heard of this game. So like I said in the opening, it's a free-to-play open world action game by miHoYo. Now you might know them from Honkai Impact, a mobile action game that I played a lot and is super fun. Now to be clear, there is multiplayer in this game, but it is not an MMO. It's actually a complete single-player open-world action RPG, and at first that didn't make sense to me either, so I'll get to the mechanics in a bit. Now, when this game was first announced, a lot of people were calling it a Breath of the Wild clone, and by looking at it, it seems kind of obvious it has a similar art style, and in a lot of ways, it even plays like Breath of the Wild. First of all, you can climb anything, and there's a stamina meter, so you can only climb and run so much. You have a hang glider. When you jump off things, you can glide around. And there's these chemistry mechanics, much like Breath of the Wild. So for example, if you're fighting an enemy that's in water and you hit him with an electric attack, it'll do more damage. And you have a character that can do ice attacks, so if you freeze the water, you can just walk right over it. But I will say it removes all the bad aspects from Breath of the Wild that people hated, like weapon breaking, getting hit by lightning if you're wearing armor, and slipping while you're climbing in the rain. So basically it takes all the good aspects from Breath of the Wild and takes all the bad stuff out. So let's get into the game flow. What do you actually do in this game? So there is a story. It's very light, and honestly, this won't be the reason you play, but for those of you who enjoy a story in a game, it is there, so let me tell you a little bit about it. So at the beginning, you choose between either a female or a male character, and you'll get separated from your brother or sister depending on who you choose, and you end up in this strange land. And you meet this character called Paimon, and she's sort of like your little familiar character. She feeds you exposition, she helps you along in your adventure, and pretty quickly you go to the nearby castle town of Mondstadt. Now pretty quickly there will be this giant dragon attacks and there's storms that are happening, and that is pretty much the setup for the game at the beginning. You are trying to quell Storm Terror is the name of this dragon, and you don't want to kill it because there's some mystery behind it, so you're trying to find a way to peacefully stop it from attacking your town, and that is kind of how you begin your adventure. Alright, so let's get into the gameplay. How does a free-to-play, single-player, open-world RPG even work? Well, honestly, it works like any other RPG that you've ever played that's open world. There's a story, like I said, there's side quests for you to pick up, there's activities in the world for you to participate in, so there's just a lot to keep you busy like any other RPG you've ever played. Now, the one caveat is leveling up and how you obtain new characters is a lot like a mobile game. So for example, you don't level up your characters and your gear through normal means like combat, but rather you collect these items throughout the world and then you can feed those items either into your characters or your gear, and then it'll level them up. And for new characters outside of the 4 that the game gives you to start with, they're obtained through gacha rolls like a typical mobile game. You'll collect this in-game currency and then you can spend it to, roll and try to get new characters. Now in the beta, there's only 18 characters total, including the 4 you start with. So there's not this giant roster. You're not going to be missing out on a ton of characters. And honestly, before you leave your hate comment, let me just say this. I played the game for over 20 hours and I never felt the need to spend once. As long as you're exploring in the world, finding things, doing dungeons, there are more than plenty of items to level up all your different characters, level your gear up, and honestly, every once in a while as a fun reward, you can roll to get new characters. And I did get one new character through the game that I didn't play with a whole lot, but as of right now, I have 5 total characters, and honestly, I haven't really felt the need to play as other characters because each of them is so unique and so fun, and let's just get into that right now. So, we talked about the icky stuff, we talked about the mobile game mechanics, but let me tell you, this game is just so much fun. So the combat, think of it like a less fluid Platinum style. You have your typical combos, and each character has a unique weapon that only they can use and an element tied to them. So for example, the main character that you start with is a sword user, so you can, hack and slash, and it feels super good. And then she has, her element is wind, so she has this ability where she can like push the enemy back, and it's super fun like when you're near a cliff and, their life's going down, but it'd just be easier to knock them off a cliff, and it's just so satisfying. I try to do that as much as possible. It almost reminds me of the Spartan kick from like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Nothing quite feels like just throwing an enemy off a cliff and watching them fall. It was just super fun. And on top of that, each character has an ultimate attack that again is unique to each of them, that does either big damage or is some kind of buff or some kind of help for your characters. So again, the main character, for example, summons this like little tornado and it sucks up enemies and will kind of push them away. You have another character, Lisa, who is like this electric mage witch, and she sets down like this big electric tower and it'll constantly be hitting enemies, and as you attack with electricity, it like pings off other enemies. It's just super cool. She's great for AoE attacks. And honestly, I think why the combat feels so satisfying is that everything just blends so well together. The animations are excellent. There's tons of cool effects. There's so many different characters that you can play as. And the other cool thing is that you can swap to any character in your party on the fly. So at any given time, you can only have up to 4 characters in your party, but hitting a couple buttons and boom, you can switch to your other character. And this is really cool because you can combo off each other. So for example, if like you get an enemy wet, like I said before, like you have a character that has water attacks, and you can switch to your electric character, electrocute them, or if they're burning with like your fire character and then you electrocute them, they get overloaded. So there are just so many ways to combine the different elements and the different attacks that you have to just do some major damage. And it's just super fun to experiment with different characters and to see what they can do. And that brings me to my next point, and that is the activities in the world. In my opinion, an open world game is great based on not only is it fun to explore, is it a cool world, are there interesting things to find, but the variety of activities you do in it. You know, you can just fight and fight and fight, but maybe there's other ways to keep you hooked, keep you engaged, keep you distracted. And let me tell you, Genshin Impact is packed to the brim with fun activities. And so let me lay out a few of them right here. Now, to me, the most common activity I found were these chests that had glowing rings around them. So you'll find them all throughout the world. They're bright and colorful and they really catch your attention. And so they unlock once you defeat all the enemies guarding them. And they always have items to level up your characters, items to level up your gear, money that you can spend to do various things, items for cooking. So if you find them, it's super fun and it just grabs you, and you can't help but want and go to fight them because, you know, these fights only take like a minute or two and there's always a reward at the end, always. And I think that's one of the best things an open world game can do, is reward you for your curiosity. And again, much like Breath of the Wild, there are sort of these distractions that are kind of like finding Korok seeds. So for example, there are these like glowing spirits that you'll find, and once you get near them, they'll start like running away. And if you follow them, they'll go back to their shrine. And once they find their shrine, they will just reward you with a chest, simple as that. Sometimes there are enemies guarding the shrine, so you have to defeat the enemies, but they're usually pretty simple. Sometimes you have to find 3 of them total to unlock the chest, but it's one of the more fun and easy ones to do. There's also other environmental puzzles, mainly these 4 torches. So there'll be torches surrounding a chest and you have to find all 4 of them and light them up. You have a character that you're given at the beginning named Amber, who is a fire archer. And so you basically use her to light these torches. And once they're all lit, you get a chest. And again, there's always good rewards in them. The other thing that will really build your character are these items that you'll see floating around the world. Sometimes you have to jump off a cliff and use your hang glider to get to them, or just jump off something nearby, climb a tree. And if you collect enough of them, you can turn them into these statues that are scattered throughout the world. And if you turn in enough to these statues, the statues will level up your stamina, which is used for climbing, running, swimming, a lot of things. So it's really important to find these and increase your stamina. You'll get experience points and just tons of other stuff. So it's really worth taking the time to track those down and then turn them into the statues. And other activities include dungeons, challenge rooms, world bosses, and just so much more. To say the least, Genshin Impact does an amazing job at distracting you with fun activities that always reward you with items that make you and your characters just stronger. Next, let's talk about the world a bit. It is just freaking gorgeous. The colors are just so vibrant, and it's such a joy to explore and look around every corner to see what new incredible sight you'll discover. Now in the beta, there are 2 big cities, Mondstadt and Liyue. Mondstadt, like I said, is your prototypical RPG castle town. Honestly, it's nothing all that special, but for me, it was really fun to climb to the top of buildings like the big chapel and just the other towers that are around the town. And there's lots of secrets waiting for you, and trust me, they're all over the place. There are plenty, so it's totally worth climbing to the top and seeing what's up there waiting for you. And the other is Liyue, and it is just jaw-droppingly beautiful. And they designed the world in such a way that you get this incredible view of it on top of this plateau as you turn this corner. And to me, I felt like that was super intentional, because I took this screenshot that you'll see right here and I posted it on Twitter, and I wasn't the only one that did that. I had a friend that played the PC beta, did the same thing. Somebody else on Twitter tagged me and they said they did the same thing. So I feel like clearly they designed that very intentionally, so you get this amazing, gorgeous view of this incredible town. Now, Liu is more of like a traditional Chinese town with this really striking architecture and glowing lanterns. And for me, I just really took my time walking around, looking at the sights, just enjoying being there. And to me, it was one of the most striking towns I've ever explored in any video game, and that is not an exaggeration. And the actual open world itself is just massive. There's huge waterfalls, secluded islands, treetop inns, and let me tell you, that inn is super fun to get to the top of and just walk around in, and just so much more. My advice to you when you start playing this game when it fully releases is just let the world take you where it wants you to go. If you see something interesting, go for it. You'll never regret climbing a mountain to see what's at the top or following the coast to see what you'll find. Now, all this praise aside, I have to say this. As I'm sure you've probably seen from the footage, this beta on PS4 runs like garbage. The frame rate is all over the place. The game will lock up and wait to load like sometimes like a full minute. It crashed on me at least 3 times, and when you're loading into dungeons, it just takes forever. Clearly this needs more polish before its final release. Now, to be clear, as it's indicated on screen at all times, this is not indicative of the final version, and man, I hope not, because this would be pretty unacceptable in a full release. Now, I talked to people that played the PC beta and they said it ran pretty good, so maybe this PS4 version just needs some more optimization and some more polish. Well, I feel like I've gone on long enough here, but if you've made it this far and still have more questions that I did not answer, definitely let me know. Like I said at the beginning, I'm planning on doing a separate Q&A video answering as many questions as possible, because when I first heard about this game, I had a lot of questions that seemed super strange. My buddy that was in the PC beta, I was messaging him all the time. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer as many as possible. Now, if you're excited for Genshin Impact and love cool video game worlds, then definitely check out my top 10 JRPG towns video. It's certainly an eclectic list, so I'm really curious to hear what you think of my picks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.